Hal, you're well known throughout our area and really across the country as a drag racer. How did it all start for you, Hal?
Well, I started when I was a teenager, when my friends gave me his old hot rod magazine, and I got hooked on it when I was 13. And as soon as I turned 16, I started going to the races and watching the cars go and got acquainted to it.
You've been doing this for 52 years, Hal.
That's right.
You like Mopar. You like the Hemis.
Yeah, that's right.
What is it about the Hemis that keep you going back to them?
It makes more horsepower than any motor out there. There's no professional drag racers that are running fast without a Hemi motor. My first race car, I found it a 1940 Willys, and all the guys to big races, they were running Willys because they were real lightweight cars. And Nelson Stoltz had a 40 Ford with a Chevy motor in it, and he was looking for a Willys. We went in partnership with it, put his motor in my Willys, and Ray Velasquez came along with the truck and trailer, and that's how I got started in '63 and '64. That's why I raced a Willys B-gasser.
You had some success with that car, and then as time moved on, you saw another era of racing that interested you.
Right. I could see the Willys and the gassers. If you won the whole event, you only got $100. But if you had a supercharged dragster, you could get $300 or $400 to qualify. And I knew I needed money to support my habit. And so I switched to dragsters in 1967. I went in the Army of the fall of '67, so I sold that car. But then when I got out of the Army in '69, I started building another dragster, and then I've raced them ever since.
Any particular one car that stands out as that's done so well across the country?
Well, we built one dragster that won the IHRA World Championship, alcohol dragster, and then we built an alcohol funny car that won the IHRA World Championship. But we built a lot of cars that won big NHRA races. And we raced with the United Drag Racers Association, which we raced in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Ohio, and Canada. I won 3 UDRA championships with my dragsters, driving the car and building the car.
Hal, this 1933 Willis, just out of your shop, you were gracious enough to let us make it the centerpiece of this year's FlyInCruiseIn. Everybody's looking at it. It started out that you were going to make this a street machine.
This was going to be a street rod. I've wanted a street rod for a long time, and Scott's Rods in Ohio makes these fiberglass replica bodies, and I originally bought it to make a street rod out of it, but it got out of control. I started thinking, hey, I'd like to go to the racetrack a few more times.
Hal, tell us about the engine in this car. You built it up right from the bottom.
When I first started racing dragsters in '67, I ran a Chrysler, 57 Chrysler 392 Hemi, and that's what I raced for a long time until I switched to aluminum blocks. But this is a replica out of my dragster motor. This is the same motor I ran. It's a 398 cubic inches, which is a 392 board, 30 thousandths oversized. It's got a 671 supercharger, a Vertex magneto, and a Hilburn injection. That's when I was winning races with my dragster in the '70s. It's the same motor as I had in my dragster.
How you build up an engine like this from the ground up. First time you start it, how do you feel? What's it like the first time you hit it?
Well, it felt great because I hadn't built one for over 10 years. When you race all them years, you tear them down every week, put them back together and fire them up. So it's just like the good old days.
So if it doesn't start, that makes you mad.
Oh yeah, but if you build a motor right, you know it's going to start. You know, yeah, you get upset, and we had a few issues with this motor. I mean, it started, but it didn't want to run smooth. But now it's all, the bugs are taken out of it.
What makes one motor run better than another? What is it?
It's all attention to detail. It's when they call it blueprinting the motor. It's you everything in the motor, the crankshaft, the rods, the pistons, the rings. You hand fit all that stuff. Experience and knowing what it needs and setting the motor up where all the tolerances are the same.
You got any secrets you just don't share with anybody?
There's basically not any secrets. There's not really any tricks. You can buy a manual on the internet or at the library to tell you how to build a race car motor. It's just following the manual.
In the very beginning, you were saving up money. How much did you pay for your first race car?
$5.
$5.
That's right, and it won a lot of races, yeah.
You started out with a $5 race car, right, and you went all the way up to the big leagues. You see a lot of shops out there and everything. Right. How have you stayed in the business?
It's just innovation and learning stuff and saving money, making your own equipment. You learn over the years how to do stuff without fancy, expensive equipment. You
changed over to the rail type car, and this one behind us was your very first scratch built one.
Yeah, before this car I used to upgrade cars, or I'd bought a couple used cars for myself, but this is the first car I built completely from scratch, the chassis, the body, and everything else. Went to a lot of races this car. We raced this car for 12 seasons with minor alterations, but this car won a lot of races. It won 2 United Drag Racers Association Points Championship. It won the Snowbird Nationals in Braden, Florida twice. It won Citrus Nationals in Florida. It won the Honest Charlie meet in Kentucky. It won the Budweiser Nationals in Ohio. The biggest race it ever won was in 1976. It won the IHRA Northern Nationals in Union Grove, Wisconsin.
Your personal best in this car in a quarter mile?
On this car, the best it ran was 672 at 208 mile an hour. And then we had a car we built after this that ran a 6.18 at 218 mile an hour. They talk about street cars, going to 0 to 60 mile an hour in 6 seconds, but this car goes from 0 to 100 in 1.5 seconds. Acceleration pushes you back in the seat. It just nails you to the seat. You can relate to this, Ray, that when you drive one of these cars, it's just like flying an airplane close to the ground. Everything's buzzing by you at a high speed.
Coming off the line, you gotta get just that edge. What's the secret?
Well, the secret's all concentration. It's experience, but a lot of races are won on the starting line in drag racing. If you can get ahead of the guy on the starting line, he'll never catch you. They used to call me the slowest guy in the pits and the fastest guy on the starting line. Announcers used to talk about it because even back in the 70s, I couldn't walk very fast, but I would walk around the pit slow, but once I got in the race car, I was ready to go.
A different story.
Yeah.
Over the years, you've met a lot of people, worked with all kinds of personalities. I know you love these cars, you love these race cars. Don't you think how it's really about the people, though?
It's all about the people. 12 years ago, they started having what they call the Hot Rod Reunion in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they have it every June. And you go down there and you visit people that you used to race with 20 years ago, and they're retired or they quit racing for another reason. But it's just like a family reunion. You need to visit your friends as often as you can, because at our age, I'm 71, your friends are leaving this world. it's nice to see them.
Operating out of your shop right here in Marion, Indiana, yet you've done work for customers, big names all across the country.
Yeah, we've got a great reputation as far as building cars that go fast, and that's what sells chassis. You build a car that wins races, and that's what helps. So we've got customers all over the United States and Canada, and we've even got car chassis in Australia and England.
You're preparing this car for a few races coming up this fall. What's left to be done?
Well, we want to make sure the transmission, the rear end, the suspension, everything works, and we're planning on going to 3 or 4 races next year, and we're planning on getting it ready for this winter. We want all the bugs out of it. But when I started building this car, it was a street rod. Then I decided I wanted to race it, so I'm going to race it for a couple years before I turn it back into a street rod. But before you run a car in competition, you got to make sure it goes down the track. People in Marion want to see it go down the track, so we're going to Muncie and make a couple laps with it just to make sure it goes down the track straight.
Is there really the perfect project, something that's going to come out of your shop?
This is it right here. This Willys is the perfect project because I wanted one for a long time, and I built the chassis from scratch. I mounted the body and built the motor and everything. And this is a lot of people they're 65. They go Social Security and they sit and drink coffee. I'm not that kind of person. I want to do this stuff until I'm gone.
Hal, it's full circle. You started out with the Willis,
yep,
and that's where you're going to finish.
That's right. That's right. You think about racing a dragster, but I ran over 200. I won a lot of races. I don't have any desire to drive a dragster anymore. This is something that's fun and I want to do for a long time. My next project is to restore this dragster, put an engine and rear end in this dragster, and I'm already gathering parts for it. I'm going to it'll be going to car shows in the future. In a year and a half from now, we'll have this car back together and we'll be taking it to car. It won't race again, but it'll be going to car shows and FlyInCruiseIn, and it'll be a display piece.
Your plans are for the 1933 Willys. You're going to race it for a couple years. We're going to get to see that car on the street.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I raced for 25 years. I've had plenty of racing under my belt. I just want to take this car out and have a little fun with it, race it 3 or 4 times a year, and then in a couple years I'll convert it to the street.
What would the engine be like in it on the street?
Well, I'll have to tame it down a little bit. It'll still have a supercharger on it.
Hal, I got a question for you. That first Willys was $5.
Right.
Will you take $5 for this one?
No, not today.